Welcome to Shelf Help. Today we're speaking with Will Nitze, the founder and CEO of IQBAR, who's joining us from Miami. IQBAR, for those of you that aren't familiar, focused on brain and body performance. Will launched the brand in 2017 with plant-based bars and has since grown into a pretty well-rounded brain and body product suite with a few other products. I think he's going to surpass a 9-figure run rate this year. So seeing a lot of success. So excited to get into it. First off, for the listeners that aren't as familiar with the brand, maybe just give us a kind of quick lay of the land in terms of quick origin story, why behind the brand, core products you guys offer, and some of the main places that consumers can get their hands on them these days.
Yeah, I mean, the why was I didn't like my job at the time and got into nutrition and wanted to be my own boss. And I could never really understand why ready to eat foods there was nothing as it related to the brain. It was all body, body, body. And
Yeah.
weight loss, improved digestion, build muscle, nothing for the brain. And so, yeah, it was kind of a confluence of a lot of those things. And then, yeah, it was started as a bar brand, and still, I think the latest tally is 90% of the revenue is still bar related. But a couple of years into it, we decided we could platformize, and we should platformize, because this brain and body nutrition concept was relevant to other use cases, and we could solve other problems for the same consumer. And so we expanded into hydration with IQ Mix, and then into coffee with IQ Joe. So those are our 3 lines now. I don't think we'll go into other categories, at least not for a year or two. But yeah, e-com first brand. We were started D2C and then layered on Amazon, and then subsequently layered on brick and mortar. But now, actually, for the first year, 2025 is the first year brick and mortar will do more revenue than digital. So I think 55-45, and we're Costco, Walmart, Target, Publix, HEB, all the
main places.
Yeah,
You guys are on track to hit 125 million or so this year, which I think is the 9 full-time employees, which super impressive, really unbelievable, I'd say, to a lot of founders who have a much bigger teams that are much lower on the revenue standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, I think moving forward, AI will allow for really, really small teams. That's not how we did it, but just as a concept, I think that'll be more and more possible to have 1, 2, 3 person teams doing whatever, $50 million. Yeah, I mean, we have 9 full-time, W2 folks. But if you zoom out, we probably have, 50 people working on the brand. We just created what I call a hub and spoke model. So you have the hub, that's your team, your W2s, and everyone's kind of the CEO of their department. There's 1 to 2, maximum 3 people for each department. And so that's good and bad, right? The people in those roles have to like that, be comfortable with a lot of accountability, be really good and just competent.
Yeah.
Et cetera, et cetera. But then each person manages at least 3 to 10 third parties. So, those are all the spokes. So we have a spoke out to an Amazon agency, a D2C paid ads agency, an email marketing third party. We have a Walmart broker. We have a Target broker. We have a Costco broker. We have a Publix broker, right? So, it's still a lot of humans working on it, but yeah, very small team. And I wouldn't do it differently. I'm surprised more people don't try to do it the way we're doing it.
Yeah.
We can get into why I like the model if that's interesting, but
yeah, for sure. If you want to share why, I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, so for starters, yes, there are a lot more people working on it, but there are I would say less total people working on it than peers of ours. So there's that obvious overhead savings. There are no people who you're I don't know what that person does all day, which most companies, there's some middle management layer, and you're I don't a person sends me emails and tells people what to do, and then I don't know what they do for the other 6 hours a day. So everyone's doing stuff at all times, and yeah, you just frankly save a lot of overhead. So that's nice, especially in the early years when you just don't have money to pay people.
Totally.
But honestly, I would say the nimbleness is the biggest thing. You can hire and fire third parties so easily and quickly. And one thing I've learned is every year you have to fundamentally like re-engineer your organization if you're growing fast. If you're not, then you don't, because there's not much to change. But like if you're doubling, which we try to double every year, and if you are doubling, well, you need a lot of different skill sets that are going to get you to the next double. And so you're going to have to, evolve manufacturing setups. You're going to have to evolve your broker. Your broker over here has been knocking on Target store for 3 years and hasn't gotten in. Like, time for a change, like your Amazon agency is kind of stalled out and you didn't have enough money to afford a better one until now, but now you do. And so, okay, let's level up our Amazon agency. So there's all these like things that you have to re-engineer year in and year out. And it's way harder to do that with like an internal team than it is with a hub and spoke model, because you can just swap in and out spokes, as much as you want. Now, it's still annoying to do that, right? Like, just because it's easier doesn't mean it's easy, period. It's still painful to change manufacturers. It's still painful to switch brokers, but I would say like miles less painful than if you had a team of 30 people and you're like, oh crap, 10 of these people were great for the model last year and are like terrible for the model moving forward. Like, that is a gnarly problem to solve.
Yeah, totally. You mentioned Amazon agency, Meta agency, email marketing agency. Beyond those three, if there are any other ones, what does that agency and or just that core contractor ecosystem look like?
I mean, it's like all those things. We have a customer service third party that they're like basically internal. I mean, we've been working with them for years and they know our brand catalog extremely well, all our policies, like they're very good. Yeah, I mean, brokers are huge. We only had one sales guy up until like a week ago. We hired our ninth person, who's only our second person in sales, but we had one sales guy sitting over like $75 million business, one guy. So on the brick and mortar side. So it was incredibly important for him to have a really, really good Costco broker and a really, really good Walmart broker. And because those people are boots on the ground, they're meeting with the buyers, they're putting decks together, they're monitoring sales data and out of stocks. And, and then, yeah, like on the e-com side, my wife Jess runs our e-com business, and it's just so critical. We have a great agency on Amazon. Amazon's our number one channel. And it's so critical. We have a great, paid ads agency on the D2C side. And ultimately, each person largely becomes a manager of third parties, like over time, which is like by design. You want that. So, yeah, I mean, it would take me a while to get into all of them, but just suffice it to say, like every department
For sure
has that quarterback and then a bunch of receivers.
I think I read that you like to shadow an agencies like Blackorg for like 2 weeks as an example of one data point. But I'm curious, obviously these agencies are a core part of the business. What's that typical due diligence process look like? And then how does an agency in your business?
Honestly, this is maybe not a good answer. They don't. We are recommended them via, like, there's nothing they can do necessarily. Whenever we have a need, I just like I'm always trying to look at someone who's taken on the same problem and bang their head against the wall many times.
Yeah.
And then pick the right answer. I want to skip the head banging. I just want to go like find someone who found the answer and then do that answer.
Totally.
And so like pitching me doesn't really work because I'm just like, no, I'm just going to call 5 people and see how they solve the problem. And then if like 3 of the 5 solved it in this way, like I'm just going to do that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like outsourcing decision making. By the way, we do that with like everything.
Yeah.
So, and then once they start, yeah, I mean, I imagine we're pretty annoying because we're just like on them, which by the way, like better for both parties because you iron everything out and then we make it very clear what our goals are. So like, you set your our KPIs for whatever the thing is, and then it's just sort of objective. And it's like, all right, let's check in and are we hitting them? And if we are, great. And I have to think about it less and less and less week over week. So yeah, and it's like a privilege once you get big enough to where you can pay good money. Like because yeah, you do get what you pay for.
For
That's
sure.
definitely true. And if you're paying 30 grand a month to a third party, like it's reasonable to ask a lot of them, and they don't want to lose you. So they're going to do what it takes to keep you. And
Yeah,
so honestly, like managing third parties has gotten easier because you're just paying them more
sure.
and they're just better. Like they just are.
Yeah, that makes sense for some early stage founders that are a few years behind you. They really like what you've done in terms of building a really super lean team. If you just had to distill it down, what are the three things that come really top of mind?
Well, first I would say do it yourself first, right? So don't start with like the hub and spoke model only became a hub and spoke model after the hub did all the work first.
Sure.
So everyone does it first, deeply understands it. This is, again, a principle that applies to many things in life. Do it first, understand it such that you could do it, and then go hire. And then, and that's true across like everything, especially as a founder. You have to be up the curve 75% on like legal and trademarks and food science, if you're in the food and bev world, and raising money and da 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 da. Like you have to be fairly competent in 8 to 10 different areas, which is why it's entrepreneurship so tough.
Sure.
But that just is what it is. So that would be a big one. I would say like good agencies want accountability. And so I think there's like a misunderstanding about being annoying or whatever. You want like both parties want it to be really clear how you define success and whether things are going well or not. That's bi-directional too. I guess that would be advice to agencies too, of like they should check in. I'm always shocked when agencies don't check in to see like how's it going, like what could we be doing better.
Yeah.
And they just assume it's going well, and then they get fired or whatever. And like, what? I thought it was going well. It's like, well, you could have just easily checked in. Doesn't take a lot of time, but same thing goes to the brand of the agency. Like, if you're not happy, like make that clear and just like over communicate. The other thing I would say is like it's almost impossible to genuinely over communicate. Like even if it sounds dumb, this is true for everything, by the way. Same with your manufacturer. Like it's not sufficient to tell someone to do something. You have to tell them what to do something and then also tell them not to do 5 things. So
Totally.
you have to foresee like the errors and then say, don't do these 5 things in addition to do this thing.
Yeah.
Like that's like real. I would say most relevant on the manufacturing side because you see enough stuff and you're just like, hey, by the way, definitely don't do this, 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 and this, and watch out for this, this, and this. You know. So those are a couple things, and then look, you're still gonna need money. So we're super lean and we're super capital efficient. We still needed $9.5 million to, to get to now. And that's super like low, by the way, relative to peers and relative to now the size of the business. I think we calculated it not long ago where I think we delivered like, or have delivered $13 or $14 in net revenue for every $1 in equity fundraising we took in. So that's super high, but we still had to raise $9.5 million. So
Sure.
there's this whole thing now of like bootstrapping versus raising, and I think it's kind of like silly. It's don't get dogmatic about any of it. To me, at least in the categories I play in, my belief is the answer is be really lean, but also raise the right amount of money at the right times. Because again, like what I said earlier, you get what you pay for. It's going to be so much tougher to have bad people on your team and bad third parties and bad manufacturers. It's just, you do have to pay up for quality at
For
some
sure.
point.
Yeah, totally. A week or two ago, I saw you shared a post where you're talking about fast reactors survive, slow reactors don't. How do you think about balancing the need for those quick pivots, reactions versus at the same time giving an initiative or strategy enough time to generate success in terms of maintaining the commitment or confidence in a strategy that that may entail some delayed impact, if that makes sense?
Well, you're always micro pivoting. This is something I always say is like the product's never done, but that's like true. Like You're never done as a founder. The team's never done. Like, I think people think, oh, you create this thing and now it's done. No, it's never done. So you're always iterating. So you need to be patient over the long scale of just allowing 1,000 iterations, but you need to be fast reacting for each iteration, right? So if you're iterating twice as fast, you will get to the finish line twice as fast.
Yeah.
So that's a kind of a bit paradoxical, right? Because it's like patience, but also reacting really quickly. So, if you look at any of our products, what we sell today is not what we sold 3 years ago.
Sure.
And we're not afraid to make like fairly substantial changes to things. When we first made the bar, it was like 8 grams of sugar and 6 grams of it wasn't a protein bar. Like, it was a brain food bar. And then we just kept getting feedback of, could you add protein? Could you add protein? And then we're like, okay, could we add this thing and make all these people happy and not piss off these people? So if it's an incremental benefit and like almost zero detraction, always do it. Always do it. Even if it's like disruptive operationally or administratively or whatever, always do it. Because in the long run, it's gonna, for a fact that is the right move. And by the way, once you hit a certain scale, making the right move a week quicker is like massive sales wise. Like each day is really impactful. And so there's also like a revenue output of acting fast. Solving problems slowly means growing slowly, usually. So yeah, I guess that's what I meant. The whole game is a game of patience.
For sure.
But you're just always iterating. It sucks, right? It's not fun to always be iterating. I think a lot of people stop because it's not fun and it's exhausting. But it is usually the right move, especially as the market moves too, right? So oftentimes you can't control the need for ituration. So an example there would be like keto. And so iterating into that was like a massive benefit. We're like, okay, we kind of lucked into it a little bit because we were already keto compliant. But then we were like, okay, how do we capitalize on this like giant new demand? And we put keto in huge letters on it on the front of the pack. And it was epic. Like, our opportunistic iteration was epic and had huge implications for us. Then keto died, and the same iteration, or a very different iteration, but that same style of like looking at macro trends and acting was needed. And then we had to cycle off it. And then we survived and kept growing while keto first brands all died. So that was like out of our control, but we were paying attention to the environment and thus iterated around that as well.
Talking about supply chain for a second, you've said there's plenty of brands out there that could probably pretty significantly reduce their COGS if they just really focused on optimizing their supply chain, but it's just something that often people don't want to do or just don't know how.
Well, the don't know how is like, there's no playbook for dealing with manufacturers or suppliers or like, I mean, you could call 10 people and kind of figure it out, but it's usually people learn this stuff via doing or via necessity and via trial and error. And like you ask for something and it happens and you're like, oh damn, I didn't know I could ask for that and could get it, and then you ask for the next thing. And it's, again, when you're iterating so many times on like the supply chain and ops side, in addition to the positioning and marketing and all those other sides, you just learn how to strip cost out of your products. And you have certain like step change, kind of like aha realizations.
Yeah.
Like, one for us was taking our supply chain in-house, which by the way is not like objectively the right way to do it. There are many major downsides to that, and many other people don't do it, even though they know they could, because they don't want to deal with those downsides. Like, that's fine. But for us, that was a huge unlock. So, that you learn those things. The first piece was they don't do it because they don't like it. It is not fun. That's also true. Like, usually people don't get into CPG to order pea protein powder. Like, that's not fun. And it's not fun to test 30 different pea protein powders, when if you test 3 and one's like pretty good and you're on a schedule and you need to get to market, it's a lot easier and less not fun to just pick the best of those 3. The right move is to look at all 30.
Yeah.
So it's just, I do think it's a combination of those two things. I guess baked into that last one is time, right? It does take more time.
On that similar track, it seems like one thing I heard you talk about is one of the first like big COGS impacts that you saw was when you started buying your lion's mane and nuts directly. I'm curious, like, what was hardest part about making that switch?
I think different co-packers are different. Like I don't think they love having to manage. Like in some ways, it's nice for them and a lot cleaner for them to charge a tolling rate. And they're like, because again, all those downsides of you doing it, those would be their downsides too. Yes, they get to mark it up, but they have to outlay all that cash to buy it. They have to sit on it. It's on their balance sheet. Like it sucks for them too.
Yeah. Fair point.
So no, I mean, you see this a lot with 3PLs, by the way, too, right? Where they don't necessarily want you to use your rate cards because they have their own rate card and they're marking it up, and it being a black box is actually beneficial to them. They don't want you to source cardboard because they want to buy cardboard and then mark it up. And
right,
I would say it's less painful for the 3PL, and so they're going to push back harder than maybe like a manufacturer would. But you're right. I mean, some manufacturers want to manage it.
Sure.
And I guess to that manufacturer, I would say, like, too bad. Like, here's the demand I can give you. Here's what I'm willing to do it for, like deal or no deal. And a lot of this comes down to like leverage, right? So that's nothing I said in the last 15 minutes is useful whatsoever unless you have volume.
Sure. Totally.
So forget everything I just said and focus on getting volume if you don't have volume. And then start thinking about all those things. Like order of operations is key. Like number one, product market fit and get to like 10 million, 20 million, 30 million units.
Yeah.
Then you have a whole menu of things you can do to expand gross margin.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. In terms of early stage founders, again, that are ones that are a few years behind you, how can they, at least maybe they're not to that point yet where they can actually do it, but how can they at least start thinking about how they can start setting up their business to be able to own more of that supply chain as early as possible?
They might not want to. Like, it might not be the right. First of all, I would say there is no playbook. Like, don't look at what I did and assume that's right for you. I would consider all paths. And again, there's pluses and minuses, right? Like, there was a time when really it was more important. Your top line was way, way, way more important than your bottom line. Like, 2015 to call it 2021. And so it didn't make economic sense if you're trying to get to exit to nerd out on all this stuff. You're going to get a way better deal and valuation by truly focusing 100% of your efforts on sales and marketing.
Sure.
And then that changed, right? So you just have to like understand the environment you're in, work backwards from your goal, and maybe taking supply chain in-house is the right move. Maybe it isn't. Maybe you're in such a high gross margin category that you're actually fine with a materials markup from your co-packer, and you don't want to sit on $10 million of ingredients, which I have to do, right? So I guess I wouldn't say like think about XYZ earlier in terms of specific things to do. I would say just strategize more broadly earlier. Like, think about every possible path earlier and understand like the true open book pricing of everything. Like, don't ever accept black box pricing of anything. You should be able to get to the line item detail of everything.
Yeah.
And if you're not, like, just demand it, ask for it. Because again, it's like that saying, like, what gets measured gets managed. And that is absolutely true. If you have a black box, you're not going to do anything with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think all these are really great points. Talking about product in general, I know you guys started with the bars, expanded into powdered mixes. What's your general like thought process in terms of how you think about product roadmap strategy? I know you said you probably don't have anything else coming for a while, but thinking back to maybe as you guys started thinking about what makes sense and how to expand beyond the bars, like what's your general like approach to product roadmap strategy?
I mean, we thought about it in terms of what's coherent for the brand and then also what satisfies a long checklist. And I guess the third thing would be what's not cannibalizing and ideally complementary. So most brands will have a form factor and they'll just ride that form factor and they won't platformize at all. And they'll sort of create new flavors and limited time offers and create variety that way, but they won't go into other categories. So by the way, that's the best thing to do. If you can scale that to the moon, like if you're AG1 and you can have one product more or less, like
Totally.
do that for sure.
Yeah.
We just saw an opportunity to grow faster and sort of ensure that we could hit, 9 figures. I think we would have hit it anyway with the bars, but sort of like almost a level of insurance to get the business to the size we wanted to get it via platformizing. And so then the question was, okay, what else is brain and body nutrition relevant to? What other problems can we solve for the same consumer? And so there was like, satiate. Well, what about hydrate and caffeinate? Like both of those are ultra relevant to brain and body nutrition and the function of your brain and body. And sleep was another one we looked at, but didn't go into for a variety of reasons. I still think we could one day, but
Sure.
And then what's the long list of check boxes that need to be checked? It has to be e-com friendly, meaning lightweight, long shelf life, needs to be high gross margin out the gate, needs to not cannibalize bars. So you're not consuming coffee instead of bars. You're consuming oftentimes coffee, like consuming A helps you consume B, et cetera, et cetera. So the category has to be big and growing. We don't want to play in shrinking categories. Ideally, the category is not super competitive. Hydration sachets were somewhat competitive when we launched IQ Mix, and now they're like insanely competitive. I mean, if you go to Amazon and you type in electrolyte powder, there's thousands of options. So that's not great. I'd say much less so on the like enhanced instant coffee side, much less competitive. But again, nothing's perfect, right? We're still willing to make trade-offs.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the thing.
Like that's an actual product in terms of specific to your guys' brand in terms of the brain performance stuff. Are you guys exploring whether they're under the radar and or more well-known ingredients that aren't currently in your products? And if so, what's the process that you guys go about vetting these, let's just say like emerging brain nutrients?
No, this is a short answer. So you have to think about everything in a like form factor specific context. So for bars, for example, you have to decide if you want to create a supplement or a nutraceutical or a food. And if you want to create a food, you really, first of all, there's like price implications. You can only sell a bar for so much. And if you want to scale into Walmart and Costco and whatnot, you can't just raise your COGS by like 20 cents a unit. It's just not going to work. And also, even if you do that, no one wants that. There's zero people demanding that out of you. But that's like a very bar specific thing. Like one thing we learned is with bars, people go to the bar aisle and no one, by the way, says, I want brain food. They're like, I want a plant protein bar or an RX bar or whatever. And they show up and then they cycle through a fairly predictable list of considerations: protein/protein source, sugar, label cleanliness, flavor appeal, price, and then, of course, taste, right? That's a post-purchase consideration that then brings them back. And then like the last thing would be like, oh, is there something cool about it? Enhancements or this or that. And that's where the brain thing comes in. It's not the inverse of that. They don't start with like, oh, what's this like really novel thing? They have to cycle through those first 6 things to get to that last thing.
Yeah.
That was a huge learning for us. Humbling, honestly. So that's bars. So if we were to like, constantly be thinking of how do we incorporate this into the bar and that into the bar, like, again, won't work for cost purposes. No one cares or wants it from that form factor. And then just operationally, it's a disaster. So that's bars.
Yep.
Powders, people are much more interested in like drinking functionality than eating functionality, generally speaking, especially in a powder context. So, we landed on Magtine because, magnesium's an electrolyte and it went well with, in that form factor in an electrolyte powder product. And it had all these great clinicals that demonstrate it to cross the blood-brain barrier and improve mood and improve focus and yada, yada, yada. And so could we have used cognizin, for example, which is another molecule, which is, I believe, acetylcholine? Yes. I mean, again, there are like trade-offs to, heck, we could have both of them in there. But then it's like, again, you have to work backwards from what does the consumer want and what is the consumer willing to pay for?
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of times where companies fail is they make stuff that they just think is cool, or they make it for themselves, or they like overly nerd out on it. And it's like, you have to stop and be like, does anyone want this? Usually no. Like you do. I know you do, but does anyone want this? And then a critical follow-up, is anyone going to pay for this?
Right.
So yeah, I mean, that's kind of like
Yeah.
considerations.
Speaking of getting people to pay for it, I'm pretty sure I saw that you guys reduced your price on one of your 4-packs from $6.99 to $5.99 Walmart, and you guys saw 50% on the velocity. It seems like a lot of aspiring CPG entrepreneurs, a lot of them talk about the desire to build a premium product with a premium price. And it seems like a lot of entrepreneurs are building successful brands and are looking for ways to how and when can we increase price wherever possible. And it seemed like you definitely have a different approach to this. I'm curious from your perspective and what you've seen, why is this not the right approach, and why does it seem like so many operators get this wrong?
Well, it's not the right approach per se. You can build a great premium brand business. It's very category specific, right? So, Vital Proteins built a giant business and sold it to Nestle, and
True.
that was a premium product, right? So that category, the consumer gave them license to price at a premium, and there were a large number of those consumers who were going to pay up for that. So it's very category specific. I think a lot of people want to be premium because they think they're premium. Like they see themselves as premium and they're like, oh, I shop at Whole Foods. Wouldn't that be cool to have an item that would work well at Whole Foods? And Whole Foods is a premium retailer. And so they make that mistake of conflating what they want with what's a good business practice. And then I think a lot of people want to do premium too, because quite frankly, their COGS suck and they have to be premium. So they're just saying, oh, I want premium. I want to price at a premium, like for XYZ reasons. It's like, yeah, but like 50% of why you want to do that is because you literally have to. Like you will just bleed money if you don't price high. And they're just not honest about that. So I mean, what I would look at is, I would look at it very differently. I do look at it very differently, which is, what is the point of the business? And if the point of the business is to get really, really big, well, premium's probably not going to work. I mean, again, there are exceptions, Vital Proteins, whatever. So it can work. I'm just saying probably it's not going to work. And like in bars, it's definitely not going to work. And for me, I think mostly about like volume. Like I want as many human beings in America and globally to be able to buy our products. If you can buy our product because we come at you with an approachable price point, I have another at bat that like other people just straight up don't have because they price themselves out.
Right.
I just want more at bats. And I never want to, like, I'll look at any retailer and try and think, how could we sell in there? Like including, Dollar General, let's say. I've had a long thought experiments on how could we create an offering that could work in Dollar General. That's how I think, because I want more volume and I want more humans to eat this or drink this.
Yeah.
But again, you have to divorce yourself from the consumer, the consumer writ large. And a lot of people struggle to do that.
Yeah, this all makes a lot of sense. I know you guys went through Rebrand a while back. I think I saw you said doubled your velocity post rollout. What did that, like thinking back a bit, just what did that packaging refresh process look like, and what were the key things that you had included in that creative brief from whomever you worked with to make sure it achieved what you had in mind?
Yeah, hopefully the agency isn't listening, but No, I mean, we could have done a better job in our creative brief. It's so tough, these things, because you say what you want theoretically, and then you get manifestations of that back of what the agency, like how they interpret that in their mind and how they create that artistically. And then you're like, oh, but that's not, it's a disconnect between this sort of quirky vision you had and then like the literal manifestation of their interpretation of that. And we were like, let's be out there, like a little more liquid deathy, not fully that extreme, but let's just like, we want to make a statement because bars are so saturated. There's 200 of them in a bar aisle. Like, let's be more out there. And just, we kept getting like instances of that back that we just knew were not going to work. And so we took that as like far as we could and eventually kind of pulled the plug on that process, which was very painful. And then we stopped and we were like, okay, like, let's pivot. Again, the micro pivot thing, like, let's micro pivot. What is going to move more units of this product? And we like created a list of it. And it was like, number one was taste appeal, flavor appeal. Does someone's mouth water when they see the like imagery?
Yeah.
If yes, great, you're going to move more units. Like, it just is what it is. You know, number two, like, we want like a catchy tagline, which still, I think, was like a callback to that original goal of be more like shocking or alarming or at least just memorable, be more memorable. And so we want some like cool tagline because like IQBAR, what does that mean? Like, add a tagline that gives more context and softens it too, like makes it more accessible. And then just like, what are the key call outs? What are the key value propositions? Because we could give 10, but we only have space for 3 or whatever it is, you know? And so what are they? And then we worked with another, it's more freelancers. I don't know if they're an official agency, but we like iterated on the prior work and got it to where it was. And so it was very messy. It was very challenging. It was painful, expensive, all those things. But ultimately we got it to, I think, a really good spot. And then, yeah, like immediately saw velocity increases.
That's awesome. That's such great validation.
Yeah.
All right. So if I came to you, I ran marketing for, to say, a better for you brand, told you I'm considering a packaging refresh. What questions do you ask me to help me confirm, just even if this is the right strategy in general to even do in the first place?
Yeah. It's tricky because you can only digitally, you can do more A, B, C, D testing, right? And you can literally change the packaging in a thumbnail and just see, does this convert better? That never like perfectly maps to on shelf where you really can't do that A, B, C, D testing, right? You just can't. But it's close enough to where you can do a lot digitally. And so we would, you know, I would say start there. Like, start by, an example for us was like keto is in big letters on the front of the pack. And like, what if it wasn't? What if instead 1 gram sugar was there? Like, you can digitally make that change and see what happens for a week. So just like see what moves the needle digitally. You are going to have to, I would just say, like, understand what just like your consumer's lizard brain wants, which usually is taste appeal. Like humans are not that complicated at a baseline level. They're just, if it's a drink, it has to be ultra refreshing. Like, I have to picture myself sweating outside and like chugging this thing. And so like condensation and like cues of refreshingness are just, I can just guarantee you are important. And for, you know, in bars, like decadence and dessert like stuff, that helps. Like, there are just things where you could ABC test it, but I could just tell you that is appealing to the lizard brain of your consumer, and you should probably do that. But honestly, like, once you get past all those things, it's like, just pick an identity and be consistent and hammer that identity. Because ultimately what will drive your business is repeat purchase, which is really going to come down more to the product itself. So there's only so much you can do. By the way, price is killer too, because it's going to convert someone quicker, and having intro products that are very low barrier to entry helps. And then it's like the product. Does the product deliver?
How do you balance the need for obviously a fresh look to a certain extent? There's a reason to doing the rebrand, but also keeping some of those familiar legacy brand elements that customers recognize when they're walking down the aisle.
Yeah. I mean, we have kind of like a, I would say, memorable logo aesthetic, but with like the Q and things above the Q, and that was very intentional. But we even changed our logo. We added a box around it because we were always thinking like, this is kind of weird and it's floating. How do we like make this like distinct and segment it from the rest of packaging? So we changed like everything down to the logo, but we kept the general aesthetic of the logo. But we changed a lot. I mean, to be honest, we really leaned on the logo and having the logo be really big. We didn't want to have an understated logo. And so actually before we had a horizontal logo that took up like the whole front of the pack. And so we made the logo smaller, but it was still compared to other bar brands, pretty damn big.
Yeah.
So I would say if you have one element that's like key to your identity, often a logo that you can hold on to, I think you're going to do a pretty good job of retaining people's like, callbacks to what your prior iteration of branding was.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, it's a good question. It would be, I would love to know like how many people like couldn't find us. I don't have a good answer to that.
Last question for you, Will. Any brands or trends just in the CPG space broadly that you're particularly like excited about as you've been watching, and or any trends that you wish you would have jumped on earlier at all? I'll let you pick either of those questions or answer one or both.
No, because trends come and go, and I'm more interested in durability than trends. Like bars are just durable. They're always there and they keep growing, and trends will happen within them. But the key is you picked a durable category.
Yeah.
I do think the liposomal stuff's really cool. Those gel packets. I think that's a cool form factor. I mean, anything that'll take people away from pills is a good thing. Like gummies are having a big kind of moment right now. Why? Because it's not a pill. It's more fun to eat. It's tastier. It's kind of like candy. And then like the gels, like they taste pretty good. It's easy to slam in the morning, and it's just different. There's a novelty to it. So I do think the liposomal form factor will get bigger and bigger. Probably if I was going to do something right now, I'd do something in that space.
That makes sense. That's definitely a category I'm tracking too. But yeah, well, this has been great. Really appreciate the time. This has been awesome. Anything else you feel like you want to share before we close out about IQBAR, or anything else that's on your mind?
By the time this is airing, we will have launched a product with Thomas Keller, famous chef. So check it out. Give it a try.
All right, we'll definitely find that. Put that in the notes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Will. Appreciate it. It's been great.
Thanks for having me.
Alrighty.